welcome to another exciting show. And tonight our guest is Wayne. Hello, Wayne. Nice to meet you, Wayne. And we've had a very stiff talking to his computer, and you've done a Basil 40, haven't you? And you got a branch out and said, now you play up again, and we're going to give you a bloody good thrashing. And it's a bang now. So there we go. So we've been give it a good talking to. The other thing is coming up this Thursday. I'm hoping to do a remembrance special, an alternative remembrance, because 11th of November is Remembrance Day, but I'm going to do an alternative one, and I'm going to have to do some, shall we say, verbal. What would the word be? I would say be very, very careful that I won't be banned from YouTube. Let's put it that way. And also, today YouTube sent me another email when they've taken another one of my videos down. So that's 8 in total they've taken down, but they haven't given me a ban because it's one from about 3 years ago. So so they must be bloody desperate, mustn't they? Because remember, truth doesn't need censorship, only lies do. So the more they censor, the more they're censoring truth. Anyway, on with the show. So over to you, Wayne. Their computers are hopefully sorted out now.
Yeah.
So we can now calmly go on to the subject that, unfortunately, on the last show, things were flickering and going haywire. But I think things are calmed down. So over to you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Can I just say thank you for tuning in, and I'm so sorry about what happened last time. Everything went completely haywire, didn't it? It was about 10:30 at night before I was even able to speak to Chris on the phone, and we've had a lot of interesting things happen in the last few weeks, haven't we, as well, between us? But it seems like every time we tried to, several times we've tried to speak on the phone or on the computer, and we've had problems. I kept getting a stomach ache all of a sudden every time I contacted Chris, and even today there's all we were just chatting with Chris before we came on air. I was saying that I had things jump out of the cupboard at me, and I nearly got knocked out by a stone salt cruet. So I don't know what's going on. But that's something I want to talk a little bit later. One of the things we were going to discuss last time before we got cut off, wasn't it? Was we were going to talk about magic and the black magic of curses and that type of phenomena, which we want to get into later. And we can come back to that and have a little look if there is anything in this, when things all of a sudden start to go wrong, what may actually be behind that. Because what I really want to do tonight is give some ideas about how we can protect ourselves against negative energy, things we can do to strengthen our aura, and also give some suggestions as regards how we can develop different abilities, whether that's clairvoyance or telepathy or astral projection, which I want to get into. So I want to try and give some practical things as we go along. We've got a film we're going to play. Sorry, Chris, what did you say?
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We've got a film we're going to show a little bit later as well, which is just a few minutes long. And if it works, then all well and good. Otherwise we'll just have to get round it. But basically, it's a film I made when I eventually figured out how to do it, which just shows me demonstrating a couple of techniques, which I mentioned a moment ago. So we're going to try and play that a little bit later. I was just thinking the other day, something that we didn't address last time is people very often, I don't know if anyone's ever said this to you, Chris, but people who particularly were skeptical, very often say, don't they? Well, why don't we all see certain things? If these things are real, then why aren't we all seeing ghosts, for example, or why aren't we all having different paranormal abilities? And I got to thinking, and I think it's very much to do with, I got to thinking about the last 4 years as well, because I think there's a similarity in some respects to, the physical world and how some people are able to see certain things, and the spiritual world as well, and how some people are able to see certain things and others aren't. Because I'm sure most of us on here will have had different views to the narrative as regards everything that's taken place, since 2020. And I do think there's a parallel to be drawn where it's all to do with what we're tuned into. Because in a physical sense, a lot of people will just be tuned into the BBC, won't they? Or ITV, or just reading the mainstream newspapers. So a lot of, so most people aren't tuned into, in the physical world, to looking at other sources of information. Perhaps listening to your program, Chris, or Richie Allen's program, or any of the alternative media. And when it comes to the spiritual, again, it's to do with being tuned in. Obviously we have radio waves and different things going on around us all the time, don't we? And we all experience electricity every day, but you don't see your electricity until you turn on the light, or turn on the television, or turn on the computer. And the same with the internet waves. I've no idea how the internet works. I'm a total, technophobe, as some people have probably gathered. But there's internet waves flowing around us all the time, isn't there? And of course, we don't normally, see those. Well, we can't see the internet waves. And I think sometimes we just cross over to a different, sometimes people cross over into a different frequency, and they happen to see certain things or experience certain things. And some people that happens to more than most, but also that's something which can be, which can, be developed.
Well, look at animals. Look at dogs, for example, Wayne. You'll have a dog sitting in the corner, and it'll be looking at something and just staring and going and looking at something. Well, you can't see it or hear it, but where it comes to animals, we are deaf and blind. When it comes to other animals, we've got hardly any sense of smell. We're a bit puny when we run. We can't run as fast as other mammals. When you look at how fast a dog can run compared with us, it's only a ball that we can actually outrun. And then when you look at our hearing, it's very limited. And our spectrum of what we can see is, again, very, very limited. And we can only use 10% of our brain, 90% is switched off. So I don't believe in evolution. Whatever it was that faffed around with humans obviously didn't want us to be more intelligent than them. So they obviously, because if you make a robot, you don't make it more intelligent than you, do you? No, you want a slave to be a slave, and that's it,
Yeah, I think metaphysicists, I can't remember because I've no memory for facts, but metaphysicists, have I said that word right? Metaphysicist?
Try saying that with a mouthful of nuts. The big grip in the room.
Yeah. No, they reckon. They reckon we only see about 2% of. There's only 2% of what we can actually see normally with the physical senses. You know, which is interesting, isn't it?
Mm.
Because you've seen things yourself, haven't we? I mean, we're not going to talk, you know, too much about ghosts tonight because there's so much other stuff we're going to cover, apart from one incident which is relating to something which we're going to be talking about. But you've had your experiences, haven't you? As you know, for anyone that didn't see the previous show, the previous Secrets of the Paranormal show, you know, Chris relayed an incident to me about something that happened to him, and I, you know, told everyone about my first experience of seeing an apparition, which was absolutely horrifying. Yeah, and that was on the previous show, you know, wasn't it?
Well, yes. And also I've seen, I mean, I won't go into ghosts, but I actually saw the ghost of a young child. And I worked in some offices that was converted from a children's hospital. It was in the Edwardian times, a children's hospital, and it became a manor house or something. Fell into disrepair, and this architect's firm bought it in the early 1970s when it was just dilapidated, did it up and turned it into offices. And I was working late one night, and I looked into the corner of my eye, and I saw a little child, Edwardian child, standing looking at me. And I thought it was for a fancy dress do. I thought one of the chaps had come in with his son, young son, for a fancy. And I turned around and said, "Hello," very sort of polite and you know, soft voice so that it didn't frighten him. And suddenly just disappeared. And when I had a word with the caretaker about it, he said, "Oh, that's old. I can't remember the name." He said, "Geez, I often see him." He said, "When I'm cleaning out the loos and things like that," he said, "he's just inquisitive. He just sits." He said, "But he said, you say hello to him and he just sort of disappears." He said, "He's very harmless." He said, "But he's just an inquisitive little chappy." He said, "There's no harm, you know." And it was. But when you saw him, you know, it was in the Edwardian outfit he was in, you know. It was, well, but you see these things out the corner of your eye, and then when you focus in fully, it just goes. That's the weird thing. So I saw yeah, very weird it was. And of course, I won't go into it again because I'm going to bore everybody. Have a cup of tea about when I met myself, but that's another story.
Yeah, please look at the other show if you haven't.
Yeah. Go to the other show, not now though. Afterwards.
Yeah. So this guy just took it as a matter of fact, didn't he? Which you know, which some people do, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, all phenomena, as we did touch on in the previous show. It's important not to automatically jump to an assumption that something's coming from one particular source. So, you know, so when it comes to ghostly apparitions, you know, I think there are many astral entities out there, which we touched on before. You know, obviously, you know, spirits perhaps, which haven't passed on as well. Demonic entities, you know, maybe an astral beings. So there's just so many things out there. So it is important not to, you know, to keep an open mind as regards the different possibilities as regards where certain phenomena is coming from or why certain things are occurring as well. You tired, Chris? We're keeping you.
No, I'm actually. I turned my microphone off because do you know this virus thing? I've had it a week. Hang on, not last Friday, Friday before. It's sort of gone, but I still got the tickly cough. So I've never smoked in my life, but it sounds as if I'm on about 50 a day. I'm like, you know.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's good to see you feeling a little bit better. And
Thank you.
As I said, I've not been great. I've not been great myself. You know, talking of you mentioned coughing, didn't you? When I was trying to make one of the mishaps I had when I was making this film, which we're going to try and play a little bit later, was every time, you know, as different things kept happening as I was talking to the camera, At one stage, I tripped up, then a dog started barking, and the computer crashed. And on 3 different occasions, I went into uncontrollable coughing fits for no reason, for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
Well, look what happened last Saturday. We were testing it out, and it was like World War III going on. There's a bloody great firework display happening where you are.
Yeah.
There's people with rockets and bangers and that where I live as well. So you get bang, crash, and things like that. But it is strange sometimes when things go inextricably wrong. I've got long teeth in there, wrong, because I don't know. Some things are unexplainable, you know.
Yeah, you said to me, didn't you? You said it was almost like, and you said it was almost like someone you're almost like somebody didn't want us to film something, didn't you?
Well, that's right. I mean, I had a situation once, and I bought a very early laptop computer. I didn't buy it at 6:30 in the morning. I want to say early. It was one of the first laptops, and it was working okay. And as I've said before, I mean, I have relatives that were, shall we say, I would call them psychic vampires that drain your energy. It took you 3 days to get over visiting them. And I took my laptop over there thinking, oh, look, have a look at this. Because I used to play chess. I don't play it anymore longer, but I used to play a lot of chess. And you could play chess on this computer. And the thing seized up, just froze, couldn't get anything out of it. When I took it away from there, it worked perfectly. I took it back again, it froze again. Took it away from there, worked perfectly. Weird.
What, this was your laptop, sorry?
Yes, what it was, okay, it was my brother-in-law and sister. There was something weird about them where they would drain your energy. And I took the laptop over there, and again, it's a very early one. Because I used to I had Battle Chess on there, because they had this game called Battle Chess, the show.
Yeah.
And when I switched it on, it just froze. Just nothing would happen with it. Couldn't get anything out of it. Dead as a dodo. And it would sort of start, but very slow, and terrible. I took it away from there, switched it on next morning at home, worked perfectly. I took it there again sometime later, exactly the same thing happened. I took it home, worked perfectly. And things like electric would go wrong in their house, and lights would switch off or blow, and things weird would happen like that. Very, very odd. And I think it's some sort of demonic whatever associated with them, because it's just like, when that old program, The Addams Family, where you saw a permanent thunderstorm over a house. Well, obviously this is great. This is it wasn't like that, but it felt like that when you went there. It's like a continuous bad weather. Slight exaggeration there, I assure you. It wasn't a permanent thunderstorm over there, but it felt like that in your mind. You'd go there, go, oh God. And when you left there, you was just drained, because when you were speaking, anything you said could be turned around against you. So you had to carefully say every word.
Yeah.
Because of really smarty people, That was it. But anyway, sorry, back to you. The show's about yourself, Wayne, not me. So far away.
No, I was just going to say, on the electrical point, on the Richie Allen show recently, when we did a Halloween phone-in, I think it was, he was saying about how there was a street a few years ago which he was walking down with friends, and whenever he walked down this street, the lights, the street lighting used to turn off, and then when he walked back, the street lights went back on, and his friends didn't believe him, and he kept testing it out, and every time he walked back and forth, these lights would go on, and then they would go off again when he went back. And you were talking about light bulbs blowing. Again, this film, which I spent hours trying to record, which we're gonna play if it'll play all right on here tonight. Another thing that happened is one of the light bulb blew, Chris. Well, that's another thing that happened while I was actually filming it. And then on the floor, I've actually got a box with new bulbs in, which has been on the floor for a while, and I actually managed to kick the box and thought I'd actually broken them all. That's when I was trying to replace the light. But if you notice, thankfully they didn't get broken, and it's really bright in here now. But this is a really bright bulb, so I hope it looks all right from where you are.
It looks perfect. Shall we have a quick whiz into chat? Because
I was going to say, I was just going to suggest that because I want to talk about mediumship in a moment. But yeah, if you have a quick look that'd be a good time to have a look in chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Because what I've been talking about what I call psychic vampires. Ancient Ruby says, now what's this now? Far too many, I think. If I like flashes, it might be a spirit, yet most of the time it's explainable. I strictly have a code. That's interesting. But this is interesting what she says. It is not all demonic, Chris. Sometimes a spirit is trying to contact you. Many experience this and then run. How do you think that spirit feels? Some are lost souls. Yes. I work by gut feeling, and I also believe we have guides within us that tell us right from wrong, that are on our shoulders, and say, "Well, do this and do wrong. Don't do that. Do this. Do that." I really do believe that, because sometimes your ideas come to you and you wonder where the heck they've come from. Especially in the design world, you come up with a design, you think, did I design that? Yes, I did. You don't know. But now it says here, perhaps he had, this is my brother-in-law, more electricity in his body than others. I don't know. All I do know that there was something very odd there, very, very odd. Perhaps a dodgy light bulb. Yes, I have had dodgy light bulbs. And by the way, if you've got an LED light bulb, they don't go pop like the old type light bulbs. They just go dim and go a bit funny, don't they? And they're odd LEDs. And it's Ancient Ruby says, correct, Chris. We do have guidance. Yes, I call it the wise owl that's on your shoulder. Yeah. There is something more wise, and I think there is. Now, there's something. This isn't only Ancient Rubies, but we had Pandora. Here we are, Pandora Chaser 2. Yes, we were a bit worried about the time because the clocks went back. Was it the Sunday before last? Can't remember.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But it's that always spins up. But I assure you, this is 8:25 coming up to at the moment. And then we got hello, Bob. We got Bob Olio. Evening, Bob. Nice to see you again. And we've got Stephen Truthseeker. Hello, mate. And I'm being attacked by some kind of EMF, and I actually gave some good advice. I said, you can get some ointment for that, you see. So there we go. You're right there. And the thing is that thanks, Stephen. You do some interesting write-ups and nice links on Telegram, my Telegram channel. And by the way, I'm still banned from posting on other channels. I'm a naughty boy. I'll post on my own channel, so I'm all right there. So, whew, And so we got Mark Anthony. Hello, yes, you're on Telegram as well, I believe, aren't you? That's right. Got Ralph. And we've also got, of course, Ancient Ruby. We said hello to Ancient Ruby. We've got Louise Wilcox. Hello, Louise. Thank you for your posts on Facebook as well. And we've got Sue Coe. Hello, Sue. Yes, you're not the famous, was it the famous runner, Sue Coe? It could be, You never know. And let's have a look through here. And we've got Chris Lucas, the Protestant View Live. That's interesting. Hello, Chris. And I think we'll call it a bit of a day. There is a lot more write up, but we can't spend the whole evening, obviously. Where are we? And it's what Ruby says. One must go with logic first. That's correct. Yes. Here we are. Right. Now, say when, if you'd like me to play the film that I've downloaded. And
yeah, a little bit later.
Okay, fair enough. So far away, it's over to you.
Yeah. One thing which I think for some reason I wasn't going to talk about last time, and I don't know why, was was mediumship. Yeah, there was a film we were originally going to play, but we're not playing any. There's a lot of things we're going to do tonight, which we're actually saving for a special, which we can talk about another time, which we might put on in a couple of weeks or around about Christmas time. We haven't decided yet. But yeah,
isn't it? It's the frames that you can't see on YouTube. So
well, we're calling it the director's cut because we're going to put some interesting little bits of films on there and some things we can't do for technical reasons and for time constraints as well.
And also YouTube censorship reasons, naughty boys, you know, that type of thing as well. So
yeah, when it comes to mediumship, another phenomenon as well that people often say, when I used to read the tarot cards and I never got into mediumship, but I did do a course at the College of Psychic Studies in Kensington. But over the years, when I was reading the tarot cards and working in the mind, body, spirit field, you know, and even now, you very often hear people, particularly with mediumship, say, "Oh, isn't it all faked? It's all been proven to be fake. Mediumship's fake," you know, etc. Now, all I would say from that is my own belief, and from what I've seen from my own experience, is that I believe, you know, particularly back in the Victorian times and onward from there, a lot of stuff I believe was indeed faked. You know, pretty much everyone was having a go at mediumship, and a lot of it was fake. But having spent nearly 23, 24 years, you know, in the mind body, around the mind body spirit field, there's only about maybe 3 people, you know, in all that time who I met, you know, out of dozens and dozens of colleagues who I could say, you know, weren't genuine. And one of them even admitted that they weren't genuine. But I have to say, it's actually a rarity now that someone is faking things. But very often what we hear, we were chatting quite a bit about Derren Brown, weren't we, Chris, offline? And Derren Brown is one of these people that, you know, likes to attack the, you know, the mind body, you know, spirit field and psychic phenomena, etc. But I always say, just because phenomena can be replicated or faked doesn't mean that phenomena can't be genuine. You know, people make this false equivalence very often, where, you know, just because something can be faked, they assume everything is fake, and you know, that most certainly isn't the case. Yeah. Do you have you ever heard of the? I don't know how much time you spent in London. Do you know have you ever heard of the College of Psychic Studies? Do you know where that is, Chris?
I have heard of it, but I couldn't tell you where it was. But I have heard of it. Your name rings a bell. Yes.
Yeah, it's College of Psychic Studies is in I think it's South Kensington. I mean, in the late 19th century, there was the London Spiritualist Association or something like that. That was its former name. That was late 19th century. And in 1925, they bought a beautiful old townhouse in Kensington, and, you know, set up the London Spiritual Association, you know, there. I don't know where it was previously. And it changed, and from 1925 to 1930, before his death, Arthur Conan Doyle was the president, Chris.
Oh, because I know there's a place in, I think it's Wearside, which is near, it's not far from where I live, actually.
Yeah.
It's, what's it called now? It's a big house that lays back, and it's between, Hoddesdon and Ware. And it's very, very picturesque round there.
Mm.
So there is a place there where they do. So do you know of it?
I
It's
don't.
weird.
I don't know.
Yes,
But
and yes, a lot of famous sort of people go there, and that I can't think of the
but
name. But as you're talking, I'll actually look it up on the internet.
yeah. Okay. No. Yeah. So they've been there now since 1925. And in 1970 they changed the name to the College of Psychic Studies. But the building's got a fascinating history, which we won't get into, and I can't remember what its history is anyway. But I do know that there's been many ghostly sightings there, and the place itself is meant to be haunted, which isn't surprising. Bearing in mind the classes and the people that go there as well, which probably add to that energy. But there's a very famous medium, I think, Douglas Home. So Douglas Home, I think, who was said to be able to levitate. And there was newspaper stories, back in the early days, since they moved to that location. There was a newspaper article where people swear that he actually levitated, and he actually went out of one window of the college and back through the window of the other college. And some people say that's a myth, some people say it's perfectly genuine, but it was in some of the newspapers at the time. I don't really know a lot about it, but it's certainly I read about it once, I think, back when I was a kid, in one of those magazines. You remember those magazines they used to do called Encyclopedia of the Unexplained or something like that? It came out as
I remember that. But actually, this chap Hume is very famous because I think his grandson or great grandson became the prime minister of this country in 1964. I think it was 65.
Oh, was he a relative of his? Was he?
Yes, he was, and he was only in for a very short time. I think it was just before Harold Wilson. I think he became prime minister between Macmillan and Wilson. And that's in my head. Sorry, I was too young to know, but it's. I'm just looked up. Was it the College of Psychic Studies?
Yeah.
Is that the one you was talking about?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's a great shame. It's a great shame because I found out recently most of the courses now have actually moved online, which I think is a tragedy, really, because I think for the sort of thing they're teaching there as well, you really need to be on the premises, and it's such a historical building. I think it's terrible that, like so many things, it has actually moved online. Excuse me, Chris. just take a sip of something here.
I understand, don't worry. Now, the thing is that there's quite an interesting lot in chat, and there's a people, and thank you everybody for being very polite. Few people that disagree in that, but that's what the show's about. Feel free to disagree, as long as it's polite, that's perfectly okay, and people have shown their utmost politeness, so thank you very much to everybody. It's very kind of you. And there's people that don't like too much keen on tarot cards. We could read these out a little bit later if you like. And again, everybody's open to their views, providing they're polite, and they are. So it's brilliant. Thank you very much. I think that I think there's a lot that we do not understand, and there's a lot. Spiritualism actually came into its own, not only in the Victorian times, but after the First World War, because people had lost so many of their loved ones that they wanted to their great resurgence of speaking to the dead. But then you've got a famous World War II fighter command chap, Dowding, was a spiritualist, and he talked to the dead, and he actually believed in fairies. And this chap was, I've got a picture of him, where is he? He was actually head of fighter command. Here he is, Dowding. And he believed in fairies. He believed that he started an organisation at it. and they tried to sort of sideline him because they're getting a bit embarrassed with him with the establishment. But the more I hear about Jack Dowd, he seems quite a nice bloke actually, and to think he was head of fighter command, and he reckons that he had contact with pilots that had been shot down and didn't know they were dead. It's quite an interesting thing that he did there, you know. But this thing about theories, again, I'm completely open-minded.
If I can just, can I just interject?
Certainly.
Yeah. I just wanted to finish off talking about the college by saying, by relaying an experience which I had whilst I was there. If you can imagine, Chris, in excuse me, we were sitting around, we're in the classroom one day, and there was about a dozen of us sat around in the classroom in a semicircle, and there was a young woman sat on a chair, and the lecturer was in the room, obviously, and we were all asked to close our eyes. And the way this normally works, especially with these introductory courses, we were all just asked to, close our eyes and just ask Spirit if there was any message that coming through for this young woman. And we were asked to close our eyes and pick up on our interpretations and ask if there was any spirits around who maybe had a message for her. And we're all sitting there with our eyes closed when I actually opened my eyes. I always used to do what I wasn't told to do when I was, when I was at school as well. If somebody said don't do something, I always used to do it. So I opened my eyes when we're all meant to be sat there with our eyes closed, and a couple of other people opened their eyes as well. And what we actually saw behind the girl that was sat in the chair, who was the subject, we saw an elderly gentleman dressed in an old-fashioned suit with his hands like this. I can't do it. You know what I mean? With his hands, I'm trying to demonstrate on the camera, but I can't. He had his hands just in front of this woman's throat. He was standing behind her with his hands just in front of this woman's throat, a couple of inches away, as he was dressed in this old suit. And I looked across at a couple of other people who had their eyes open, and they looked across at me like this, and they saw the same thing. And this apparition was pretty solid. I mean, it was like it was somebody there actually in the room. And we closed our eyes again, and a few minutes later we were asked to open our eyes and asked if we had seen anything. And several people in the class said that they'd heard messages or seen things which were to do with health and concerns about this woman's health. And a couple of people, I think, actually saw an elderly gentleman in an old suit, in their mind's eye, as it were. And myself and a couple of other people who had our eyes open, said to the tutor, we saw this guy standing behind, this woman with his hands near her throat. And the tutor said to this young lady, does any of that make any sense to you? And she says, I've actually had a problem with my throat for the last couple of years, on and off, and they don't know what's wrong with me. And my grandfather was actually a throat surgeon. And that's yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
That is amazing. I mean, I've actually attended. Could you just excuse me one moment? I haven't blasted your ear. This blooming cough, it won't go. I'm going to see Miles on Wednesday, so he reckons he can clear it up with acupuncture. Not acupuncture, something about a needle. So anyway, I've changed the subject. I've actually attended 2 seances when I was a child, and it scared the living daylights out of me. It really did. And what happened is, where I was at school, there were some children that were moved out of the East End, And what they did, they moved the children, families out of the East End, sort of en masse. So you had a whole street near where not that close to where I live, because our school was quite a distance from my house. That full of ex-East Enders that had come from the East End. And these kids were true East Enders, because I think they were Romany, because they were very dark skinned, not Indian, but they were like Roman, and they did say a lot of Romany words. So they were very Roman in their way. And something you never saw as a kid was that young girls didn't have earrings until they was obviously in their teens or 20s. But these did, which was a bit strange, Anyway, on with it. They knew about contacting spirits and things like that. And there was a bully, all this, and a real sort of and they said, okay, we'll do a seance on you. And they laid some desks out whilst the teacher wasn't there. And because there was 2 teachers at my school that were really into spirituality and things like that. And they all sat around. I was in the audience. I didn't take part. I just watched. And I was about 9 or 10, I think, at the time. Maybe no, correction, no. I must have been about 13. I was a bit older, 13, 14. And they all stand around, and then they build up and they start talking about accidents and things like that. And then they tell this person who's laying down that they're dead. And suddenly they sit bolt upright and scream blue murder.
Right.
And this bully, tears rolling down his face. And he was really in a terrible state. Well, the teacher heard of this. And one of the teachers, she was a New Zealand teacher, she said she wanted to see this bit done. So I didn't take part. I was very timid as a child. But I watched it, and I saw it happen again a second time. And when that happened, it put the breeze up her and said, we'll have no more of this. We'll stop this now. We don't want any more. But she witnessed it. So I saw it twice. And both times it was on the type of kid that was a site that would not want to show their emotions. And they were absolutely screaming in terror. I've never seen anything like it. And it really did frighten me, because it showed me how powerful this is. And obviously these kids have learnt it from their parents. And it was I can't say whether it was Romany. I don't know whether Romans do that. I don't know. Whether it's just something from the East End, I don't know. There's a lot of I don't knows on this, so anybody can fill in the blanks, rather. I'd be interested, but it really terrified me. It really did. Yeah. So I think everybody ran out and ran into the loo afterwards. We were so terrified. Do you know of anything like that, Wayne?
Not specifically like that, no. But I did get tracked when I was doing a show when I was doing some tarot readings at this. There was a traveling show which was going around, which had a fun fair. I think, did he have a fun fair? I'm not sure. More craft fairs and various things going on, and me and some colleagues were doing some readings there. And we actually got locked in the grounds of this stately home one night. I won't go into the story now, but we got locked into the grounds, and we couldn't get out. And we all slept there the night and had a party. And I slept in somebody's car, and some people slept in some of these gypsy caravans. And we made a night of it, which was quite a story. No, I mean. I did something along the Ouija board lines when I was a kid. When I was a small child at school, and this glass actually lifted in the air and actually smashed against the wall, which was an experience I had when I was when I was a child. But yeah. There's a lot of strange things goes on, isn't there?
What about table lifting? Now, that's something I've never witnessed. I've seen it on film, on YouTube, and on the television, things like that, on the telly. Table lifting, because I've seen people holding the table. It's going all over the place.
Yes, yeah.
That would freak me out. I don't.
Well, I was talking about how all phenomena can be faked, but that doesn't mean to say it's all fake, wasn't I? And that's a classic example. You know, going back to Derren Brown, which I don't want to get talking about Derren Brown, but this is a good example. He did something where these people were in a ballroom and they had a table. They had these tables set up on this polished floor in a ballroom, and several tables, and they got everyone just to put their finger on the table. And he did something where these tables started to spin round and started to move all over the floor. And I think he did something else as well, where a table levitated. And he showed how he managed to make a table levitate, as if that was proof that a table can't levitate, which again, I don't believe that is proof of that. It just proves it can be faked. And with the table moving around and spinning all over the place, which is what you mentioned, Chris, it's actually possible to do that, and also possible to replicate the phenomena of a Ouija board, where you go to different letters. It's possible to do that by the power of suggestion. And that's quite possible, you know, to produce that, both of those phenomena, just by the power of suggestion. But again, that doesn't mean to say that it never happens. It just means it can be faked. Yeah.
Well, auto-suggestion is very powerful, because I know that, I think it was the University of Brighton in the late 60s, they did, some students went out on the streets with clipboards, and they went up to, and that's when, people didn't talk about sex very much and things like that. It was a little bit taboo. And they went up to people and they said, "Don't you think sex after marriage is disgusting?" And 80% of people said yes. Because it was a loaded question. Don't you think it's disgusting?
Okay, I've got you. He's after marriage. After marriage.
Yeah. Don't you think sex after marriage is disgusting? And 80% of people said yes. Because it was a loaded question.
Yeah.
See, because in then, you know, those days, sex before marriage was very taboo and things like that. They may have thought they had said before, but you load the question in that way, and you know. But that's a very funny one, a very famous one. I think it was Brighton. They went around doing that, you know, asking people, "Don't you think sex after marriage is disgusting?" There was a chap. There's a I can't remember his name, but there's a practical joker in America. When I say I don't like practical jokes, I really can't stand them. But there are some people that do things like what those students did. Don't you? You know, that is not. I don't mind harmless ones that don't harm people. And he started a campaign against breastfeeding. Don't you think it's disgusting? And the amount of people that say, "Oh yes, I think it's awful." And it was rather a psychology thing. Again, all loaded questions, all very powerful, all loaded. And he was the same prankster that when Idi Amin was alive, was supposed to have brought him to America to answer questions, and he got an actor that looked like him, and it was hysterical. This bloke sounded like him and looked like him, and did a bloody good act of him. And I was off my seat with laughter the way people were taken in by it. Yeah. But people can be taken in very easily, very, very easily. You know. Sorry, again, over to you.
Yeah, can we? I just want to get back to. I want to get back to where we left off when everything collapsed on us the other week, for 3 weeks ago, Chris. I was about to talk about you know, magic and what magic is, and curses, exactly what people mean by a curse, and that sort of thing. So let's spend a little bit of time on that. You know, the best definition of before I talk about curses, I'll just say what I believe my definition of you know, of magic is, which is the best definition, I believe, because you know, a curse, a genuine curse, is a form of black magic. Magic is it's causing change to occur in conformity with our will, but particularly by using non-physical means. So so in very simple terms, that's what magic is. And there's all different, even though there's lots of different kinds of magic, which on the surface sometimes can look very different. I don't know if you've ever heard of something called sympathetic magic.
Never heard of
some people would say that sympathetic magic is a field of magic within itself, but I believe that most magic, if not all magic, predominantly is sympathetic magic. And what that means is it works off a sympathetic vibration. Okay, so like tuning forks, Chris. I meant to look this up, but I didn't have time. But there's been experiments done with tuning forks, hasn't there, where you bang a tuning fork and the other one resonates at the same note, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So if a simple thing like a visualization, we might visualize a certain thing in our minds, or whether we say a particular prayer, or whether somebody does some magic and it's something more ritualistic, or even the use of symbols. I believe what we're dealing with primarily is energy and vibration. Now, when we send out energies, and our thoughts and our energies, however we send those out, they go out into the universe, out into the astral realm, and they attract like energies and vibrations to our thoughts and our feelings, which we are sending out. And then those like vibrations build upon themselves and get more powerful, and then they come back to us. And sometimes they come back to us in a physical form, but always in relation to the vibration or the energy which we've sent out. So everything works on a sympathetic level. Does that make some kind of sense?
Yes. Like with like. I was going to say, excuse me cutting in here.
Yeah.
Ancient Rubia says, have you ever done magic, Wayne?
I do magic. I've never made any secret about that. I've done magic since the late 80s. I've done many different kinds of magic. More often than not, I just call them now spiritual processes. Because I do many different things. From simple visualizations to to reading various psalms, which are used to the psalms are very often used to attract various energies or various vibrations.
So Jerry Marwinski was on the show, the one that was banned by YouTube, taken down by YouTube the other week. And he said there's a certain psalm that you read out, which absolutely the demons detest, and they leg it straight out. I can't remember which one it was, but he did say
it's a 91st psalm, which I get to in a moment. Which is very powerful.
Ancient Ruby, before we go any further, she asks, "What sort of magic have you done?" That's what she's asked here.
Magic, which is some magic which is more earthy, more pagan based, where you use crystals, or plants, herbs. Ceremonial magic, which includes a lot of gestures and a lot of symbols. Combination of visualizations with affirmations, which again, creative visualization is a form you know, is a form of magic. You know, so lots of different things. Because
I used to know a white witch. She was actually a white witch. I used to know a girl that was a white witch. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us.
Right.
And but she tried to heal people, and there's a difference between black witches and white witches. And there's a shop opposite, almost opposite, where Miles Dr. Fleetwood has his surgery shop, and that is a white witch, which they sell all kinds of witchcraft stuff, and it's one of the only shop around for, well, there are other shops like that, but there's not that many, and it's based in Waltham Abbey. It's very oldie worldy, very interesting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about all these strange things that have been happening over the last 3 weeks, weren't we? And I just wanted to touch on what we can call curse type phenomena. All right, because what a curse is, it's where somebody basically, if something's a genuine curse, it's where someone's deliberately sending out negative energy in a way that it's deliberately designed to harm another person. So it's not accidental, it's where someone's deliberately, where it's intentional, where someone's deliberately doing that. But a genuine curse is actually very rare, because it takes a lot of effort, it takes knowledge, and it takes time, which most people don't have. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't happen on occasion, and it's also not to say that we can't come under what's called psychic attack. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression, Chris.
Yes.
But psychic attack, it can relate to a curse, but generally, psychic attack is picking up on general negativity. So that might be negative. So that might be environmental negativity, you know, picked up from friends or from colleagues. We might just be going through some hard circumstances in our life, and one bad thing happens, and we dwell on it, and that attracts another bad thing, and that attracts another bad thing. So we end up cursing ourselves, building upon our own negativity.
Yes.
You know, just because we're unhappy, you know, with our life. Now, when we're talking about general negativity and being affected by, you know, not by anything specifically, just by general negativity around us, then that's what's normally known as normally known as psychic attack. What can happen as well is people can feel feelings of hatred or resentment towards someone. And if they feel enough feelings of hatred and resentment towards another person, we can pick up on that energy, and it's as though we've been cursed. But again, that's not a curse because it's not deliberate. It's only a curse if it's deliberate. But we can still be affected we can still be affected in the same way. I just want to read you something. I've got a book here. That's that book there. But I mean, I've just written a few things out from this book, but it could be any book really, because this is a typical check sheet which you'll find similar in many different books on the subject. But see if you recognize any of these, Chris. But again, like I said, you know, we can all be influenced by negative energy, whatever the source is. Are things in general going wrong? Have you been accident prone? Been prey to unusual physical ailments? Feeling unusually depressed? Having bad dreams, nightmares, headaches or dizziness? Feeling unusually tired or run down? Find yourself thinking negatively about everything? Doing things totally out of character? Or have you been getting unusually ill-tempered and angry? So obviously a couple of those things in isolation don't really mean anything, but if there's a lot of those things which are affecting somebody, then there could well be under some form of negative, influence. I mean,
karma, but you see, I've often found that the thing with life, if you tell the truth wins through, and karma, if someone puts out negative karma, it goes back at them. Because if someone lies about you or says anything like that, to me that's like a loan, and there's payback time, but you don't have to do anything. I'm not talking about retribution, not at all. I always believe in the ether of things. If someone does something badly against you, it might happen in a year, 2 years, it might happen in a month, anytime, it goes back on them. So you don't really have to do anything, I found. You just sit back and wait. And, a lot of people made up a lot of things about me. I don't bother because I just sit back and wait, because truth always finds a way through.
Yeah, what we put out does tend, does tend to reflect back. I just want to tell you, just mention what happened to me, Chris, and then maybe we can play that. And maybe we can play that film.
Okay.
We need to play that film very soon, if that's all right.
Yes.
My own story, just very briefly, one of many different things that have happened to me over the years. But I was living with an ex-girlfriend, and I still had a flat which I kept on. I was living with my ex-girlfriend and her children, and she was into. There was a very dark side to her, and she had some a lot of problems which tended to get worse in the years I was with her. But she was into magic, and she was into some. She was an Arabic lady, and there's some Arabic magic which is very dark. Now, that's not to say all Arabic magic is black magic, but it does tend to have a very dark side to it. It's very powerful. In some respects, it's similar to voodoo. And she knew that I wanted to. She knew that I wanted to leave her. Because I just had enough, and I just couldn't take things anymore with her. And I had a feeling that I'm jumping ahead a bit of myself there. But one day I decided I packed a few things up in a bag, and I wanted to get back to my flat and go and live, back to where I had been previously. And I walked to the end of the pathway, and I actually couldn't physically go past the end of the path. It was like there was a barrier which was stopping me from going past, almost like a physical barrier. And I started to feel sick and nauseous. And when I walked back down the path, I felt perfectly fine and okay. I tried again to walk back towards the pathway. Again, I couldn't get past the end of the gate. I walked back towards the house again. I felt perfectly fine. And this went on for a couple of weeks, and I couldn't actually leave her premises. I couldn't get past the gate at the end of her garden. And I realized that she was doing some black magic on me. And I can't remember exactly what I did, but I maybe did some mini rituals or said some prayers or something. And then one day, I did actually manage to get past the end of the gateway after I'd been doing something to protect myself, and I went back to live where I'd been living previously. And after that, Chris, everything went absolutely crazy. All of the things and more which we just read out on that, all of the things and more which I just read out on that list started to happen for me, started to go wrong. And I was doing various things to try and protect myself. And then one night, have you seen, most people at, I don't know if everyone's at home, well, you'll have seen, Chris, like in these films where you see like a magical circle, don't you? Very often drawn around on the floor. Maybe sometimes very elaborate with chalk or with symbols or whatever. Well, I actually drew a very simple circle with salt around me on the floor, because salt's known to be a protective element. And I sat in the middle of the floor, in the middle of this salt circle, with and I had 4 candles lit, one at the north, one at the south, one at the east, one at the west. And I sat in the middle of this salt circle one night after I'd escaped from my ex. And I was doing, and I was saying some things for protection. And I was saying the 91st Psalm, Chris, because you mentioned that, didn't you? The 91st Psalm is a very powerful psalm, which is good for protection, pretty much anything. Physical protection, psychic protection, protection against curses, you name it. The 91st Psalm has been used for centuries for all kinds of protection from pretty much everything you can think of. And it's a good and that's really a good tip if anyone does feel they're having a lot of bad luck, or they just want things to start going a little bit better for them, is actually to regularly read the 91st Psalm, or to put it on, and perhaps to learn it by heart, to put it on a tape recorder, which is one thing I used to do. And if you can put it on a recording device, the same with affirmations, different prayers or psalms, put it on a recording device and just play it in the ear at a low level. And you go about your business during the day, and that seeps into the subconscious. And that can have a very powerful, in the case of a 91st Psalm, a very powerful, protective effect on oneself. But anyway, as I was, sat in the middle of the salt circle and saying the 91st Psalm, there was these. Have you seen that film clip where? There's a film clip where, I think it, again from The Devil Rides Out, which we showed on the previous show, where a spider, this giant spider, manifests in the room and tries to get inside the protective circle. Well, I didn't see anything as elaborate as that, but I did see flies, dozens of flies, physically manifest themselves in the room as I was sitting here reading out the 91st Psalm. And there'd been no flies at all in the room previously. And in the space of a couple of minutes, there was dozens of flies materialized in the room, physically in front of me. And what's also interesting is that they appeared in the southern corner of the room. And traditionally, negative energy and spirits are meant to enter from the south. And it was the southern direction that all these flies actually materialized as I was sat there. And I continued to read out the 91st Psalm. And then one by one, all of these flies ran into the candle, or flew into the candle, the candle which was in the south, and they burnt themselves one by one and fell down to the floor dead. And by the time I'd finished, there was dozens of flies all around the candle, which was in the south of the circle, which I'd drawn out on the floor. And from that moment forth, in the days and weeks that followed, my life started to improve, and all the bad luck had been experienced dissipated, and I was able to get on with my life again.
That's interesting. I mean, have you ever heard of Alex and Maxine Sanders? They were famous. I only found out about them. I did a little bit of research for this, well, not this show, but for a long time ago when I knew this girl who was a white witch. And they did a witchcraft tour of Great Britain. They sort of, shall we say, the BBC made documentaries about them and things like that. Alexander's died some years ago, but his wife is still alive, Maxine, as far as I know.
Yeah, I know them, yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, what person I knew told me, she said you could curse objects, which I don't believe in, When I say I don't believe in putting curses on people because I don't think it's necessary. I
Oh,
don't.
absolutely.
But because I think it comes back if you're not
Yeah,
careful.
yeah,
So if you just send out positive energy, hopefully positive energy comes back. But you
yeah,
can actually do objects and
yeah,
things. And
yeah,
she did. I won't relay on over the air, but she did tell me how to do it. I do know how to do it. I
yeah,
won't
yeah,
do it, but yeah, I do know how to do it, and I just will not. I think
yeah,
it's right.
yeah.
It
I mean,
does
just
work. I have, shall we say, I did experiment, and
mm,
it does work 100%. And that's all I've got to say of it. But
yeah.
nobody was harmed. I'll make that very clear. Nobody was harmed. It's just an object.
The,
Okay.
the 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 thing with the objects, I haven't really got time to get into it now, but yeah, I was talking about sympathetic vibration, wasn't I?
Yes.
Now, a doll, some people you see these things where on television where people stick pins in dolls, the traditional thing.
Mm.
Now, they've basically said to themselves that that doll represents the other person. So that doll, the energy in that doll, it's affecting the other person with a sympathetic vibration. But you can also use a doll like that for healing purposes. And I explained to a couple of people on Richie Allen's site how to do that. You can actually pretend that a doll is yourself and do healing on the doll, and it will actually have a very powerful healing effect on oneself. Or you can actually say that a doll it represents somebody else, and you can heal that doll rather than cursing that doll. And again, it will have a healing effect on the other person. Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. But I always think, again, what I just said was a scientific experiment.
Yeah.
Nobody was harmed. It was just an object. Nobody, I don't believe in harming anybody because you see,
Absolutely.
we don't know if someone's evil to you. You don't know what pain they're going on in inside their minds. You don't know what pain they're in, whether it's physical or mental pain. So I think it's always important to show sympathy. Even if
Yeah.
someone's absolutely vile to you, you still
Yeah.
show kindness.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't let them knock it out of
Yeah.
you. I think that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
But we've
Have
got a
we,
lot in
Chris?
chat tonight. Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry.
I was going to say, whenever we've got time, if you could, maybe we could play that film because we were going to play that film at 9 o'clock. So I've got my eye on the clock here.
Okay, and there's a fly just appeared in my room. Where does he come from? Because it's been cold. Well, it's been cold. It's not warm enough.
Because this film actually shows some techniques to actually protect ourselves. So I was wondering if we could play that as soon as possible.
And can I crack a gag beforehand?
Go on.
See, I went into White Witch and I told them that I've joined a coven of male witches, and they said warlocks. And I said no, it's true. So terrible joke that is. That's the worst joke ever. Anyway, do you want me to run the film?
Please, Eric, if we can. Yeah, Chris. Sorry.
Oh, you call me anything you like, as long as it's not too late for me dinner. Right, here we go. And by the way, the microphone blanks when the film's showing, so don't worry.
See you in a few minutes, folks. Thank you.
Bye.
Hello. The following is a process which can be used to strengthen our aura and also to protect us from negativity, which may be coming at us, whether that's deliberate or not. It's a very simple process, which we're going to do in 2 stages. And I'd like you to follow as we go my gestures and words. Now, first of all, we're going to find the most easterly facing wall. And preferably, each time we do this, we're going to face the east wall, or the wall which is most easterly facing. And preferably do it in the same room each day as well. Twice a day if we can, once in the morning, maybe once in the evening. Or strictly speaking, not necessary. The more we repeat this, especially if it's in the same location, facing the same direction, that strengthens the energy, the protective energy in the room where we are, in our physical environment, and around our physical bodies. So first of all, you take your hand like this with 2 fingers facing up and the thumb across the back. And following me, Ate Malkuth Vigebera Vigedula, the Elohim, Amen. Or if you prefer, in English, unto thee the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever, Jehovah, Amen. And now visualize that you've drawn a cross, a white cross in energy across your body. And continuing. Before me, Raphael, behind me, Gabriel, on my right hand, Michael, on my left hand, Uriel. We now visualize in each direction, each of the 4 compass points, an angel. And you can visualize that however you may feel to you an angel should look like. Or if you prefer, you can do some research and look at the typical attributes and appearances which traditionally are given to these different angels for these different directions. And then, immediately after, you take your 2 fingers like this again, of the right hand, the left hand, 1 finger facing down, and we go as above, so below, as within, so without. The world lies at my feet. And that's the first part completed. And now we visualize a white column of energy, or a white pillar coming down from the universe above us, going down through our head, going down through our body, down through our legs, down through the bottom of our feet, through the very planet itself, out through the other side of the planet. We see ourselves standing in this limitless pillar, this white column, pure, bright energy. We see ourselves standing in the middle of this. And we see as well a white aura going around our bodies in an oval shape. So we're now encased not just in the white column of light, but also within this oval white aura as well. Now what we're going to do for extra power is this white energy, this bright light which is inside us. We're going to push out in our mind's eye from our bodies and imagine this light expanding across the room, outside the house, going across the town, the city, through the planet and out into the universe itself. And then see ourselves finally at the center of the universe, at the center of this white, powerful energy. And as we do that by breathing in and then breathing out with the gesture. We say to ourselves, I'm at the center of the universe, all powerful, protected by this limitless, white, pure energy. and just bathe in that feeling for a few moments and feel the energy of the white light of the entire universe and ourselves at the center of it. In the name of Jesus Christ, Amen. And we're done. You don't have to say in the name of Jesus Christ at the end. But what we're doing is we're contacting various energies and frequencies. This doesn't have anything to do with faith. These things work on an energetic level. So you can say in the name of Jesus Christ, you can just say, it is done, or say something else to finish off the ritual. It's entirely up to you. Now, very quickly, I'm going to show you something called St. Patrick's breastplate, which is an alternative to what we've just done. St. Patrick's breastplate is an Irish blessing, and this is a very condensed version of that blessing with the words put to gestures as we did previously. But instead of visualizing at the four corners archangels, we visualize instead Christ, however Christ may be depicted to us, however we feel he would look. All right, so Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ to my right, Christ to my left, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ within me, Christ beside me. And then once again, the second part, exactly as we did before. The white energy coming down in a column, in a pillar, through the universe, through our bodies, throughout the planet beneath us. So we're standing inside the column of light. See the white aura, an oval shape going around our bodies. Push the light out, expanding all over the universe. Protected. I'm protected at all times, at the center of the universe, at the center of this pure, white, powerful energy. All powerful, protected for all time. Surrounded by the light. And so it is. It is done. Just another example of how you can finish off. Thank you.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Yeah,
nothing collapsed.
I've got this fly around here, which I've never had before. He's getting on my bleeding nerves. He's whizzing around a light now, and it's been quite mild today, I suppose. But what's this fly or blue bottle doing in it? Do you reckon it could be something to do with this spiritual stuff that we're doing?
I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know, but the bleeding fly, he's attracted to the light. But I think I think Boris the Spider will probably get him soon. So dinner time. Anyway, people like you. They like you in chat. So do you want to go into chat? Have a quick shifty through? Or?
Yeah, I was going to say. No, we haven't had much time to go into chat. We're not ignoring anyone. There's just a lot of stuff we wanted to get through. It would be interesting to hear what people have to say. And then if we have time, we can look at, I think maybe jump ahead afterwards to astral projection, because I know that's something that people are very interested in. And then time permitting, maybe look at telekinesis and clairvoyance and what have you. But yeah, it'd be a good time. Chris?
Okay, right. Now I'm going back early because I can't keep it. You know, this is going back about an hour ago. Was
Yeah.
I've just starred a few. I'm terribly sorry. Please don't take it if I don't read your comment out. People, I try my best, but I'm only human, you know. Well, some people say I'm human. I don't know. It's up to right. It says here, I believe this is Louise Wilcox. I believe tarot cards, etc., were developed to lead people down the wrong path and to steer them away from the people who could generally connect with the world beyond our five senses. It's a very interesting comment. What's your view on that one? Whilst I have a good cough, excuse me.
Well, obviously, I wouldn't. I mean, we haven't got time to get into the tarot tonight, have we? But obviously, I would disagree. I mean, I've read the tarot since I was at. I've read the tarot card since I was at college, and helped hundreds of people over a 20-odd year period, and genuinely been able to help a lot of people through the use of the cards. I mean, the cards are there to guide people and to aid the people's clairvoyant abilities, and it's like everything else, it's to do with intent. And if your intent is good, then they're a positive thing. And I've helped a lot of people. With the tarot cards.
I think Ray Mears showed a perfect example of why mind controls things. And there was a shipwreck, and there was two lifeboats. This actually did happen. And one lifeboat, the captain of one lifeboat, was extremely negative, and the captain of the second lifeboat, the captain was extremely positive. And they showed you when they rescued these two lifeboats, the ship, and somebody was filming it, and it wasn't that long ago. And the people that were in the positive lifeboat were walking up and down the deck of the ship, sort of stretching themselves and having a laugh and joke and walking along. And the people in the negative lifeboat had to be taken off by stretchers, and they spent some time in hospital afterwards. So it just goes to show you a positive thing in thought. It's like in a war, both sides, there's no such word as defeatism. You must not defeat. You've got to be positive that you're going to win. Yes, we're going to do this. We're going to. This is the thing. But Sean Hamer said, not many people know that Buddha denounced mystics and sorcerers. I don't know, because I never met him actually. But yeah, he's he's let himself go a bit recently. And did you know Fuchsia's teachings? Fuchsia say, woman that cooks potatoes and peas in same pot, very unhygienic. See, sorry, it's a terrible one. Asia Ruby, one does not need teaching by any source other than the guides we live with, or it becomes a Darren Brown investigation. That's interesting. We've got here, all teachings have been infiltrated by the New Age cult. Yes, the New Age cult, I could go on quite a lot about that. The New Age cult, I believe, was devised by the Secret Services, but that's for another show and another time. Because, yes. And this is a comment. What would you say about this, Wayne? Uri Geller was a trickster. I'd agree with that.
No, I believe he was genuine. But,
really?
Yeah.
Yes. But and someone says and a perv. Well, Uri Geller, you know. But now it says here, Louise Wilcox says Uri Geller was a CIA undercover agent. Now I think he was for the Mossy people actually, to help hypnotize the masses. No, yeah, I think he worked for the sad Mossy people in the country we're not allowed to criticise. That's what I believe, anyway. So I could be wrong. I'm pretty good at being wrong, actually. I'm an expert at it. What if malevolent spirits, is Sean Hamer, move on, and all we can engage with here is lower states and deceiving spirits who can move on who can't move on because they are still addicted to the world? That's interesting, isn't it? Well, there's that story about the bloke who dies. I think he's on the operating theatre. Mark Windows says something about this, and drifts up and drifts up, and he drifts over a pub, and he sees a load of demons queuing up, waiting for people to get drunk. That was an interesting, and the bloke was relieved and brought back to work to life again, you know. And yeah, it says it just another way of saying how's things, Ruby? How's it? Oh, sorry, it's a private conversation there. What's your feelings about Jimmy Savile, where he repeated things 3 times? Now then, now then, now then, and all that sort of crap. Do you think there was something demonic about him?
Well, quite possibly, but I quite possibly.
I
Certainly
mean,
very evil consciousness, wasn't he?
well, I had a teacher, Ancient Ruby, that got me round the neck and threatened me when I had been in class doing telekinesis. That was frightening, and I was only 11. That's interesting. Yes.
Yeah. I've got telekinesis story, but I don't think we might not have time tonight. But yeah, it's very interesting, Ruby.
Now, I like what Baby with a Laser says. Where is it? As Bernard Manning once said, I wake up, stick my elbows out, and if I can't feel wood, then great. Yes, that's a good one. He certainly, his gag deliveries were brilliant. His timing was brilliant, Bernard Barry. He's certainly knew how to time a gag. Evening all, good to see you, Wayne. That's Chris the Gardener.
Hi, Chris.
That's it. And we was talking about hanging baskets last week. You know, have you hung any baskets recently, Wayne? You know, like your local MP, or maybe
I don't know anything about gardening.
No, we're not necessarily talking about gardening. Right, now we got here. If it comes up, come on, that's it. Ancient Ruby. When sending, you do not attract as such. You are sending, not to receive. Now that's interesting. When sending, you do not attract as such. Can you expand on that, Ancient Ruby? I don't fully understand, because I thought when you're sending something, the source of where it's sending from is sending, if you're sending love or kindness, or it's the intention. I don't understand. Can you explain a little bit more? You know, now it says here, Baby with a Laser. I can push a cig in my ear and pull it out through my nose. Can you really? Well, yeah. So as long as it's not lit when you do it, I think you'd be all right. Now it says. Something nation agrees, just not true when you underestimate the power of the spirit. That was something you said earlier, I think. So again, there's a sort of a polite comment there. Now let's go through here again. Now, Ancient Ruby says, I send curses to those who lie, deceive, and is the most cruel, yet rare. I do it, but I do because I do it in fairness and love. Nothing comes back to me. I'm not evil. Well, but I think what you send out, you get back, and you know, it's surprising. Now, Ancient Ruby says, just positive words are enough. Yes, because that's why we spell. We put spellings. Words are very powerful. Very, very. I think it's Bruce Lee that said, never run yourself down, because your body will, your subconscious will hear it, which is very true. You know. So, right. Now, I think we can just have a little break there. So you was going to say, carry on. Was it about curses and things like that, Wayne?
No, what I wanted to do.
Sorry.
Yeah, what I wanted to do, if it's all right with all right with everyone, is definitely wanted to talk about astral projection, which we were going to do at the end, but I think maybe as it's something which generally interests people, and I've got some tips for people, anyone who might want to develop that as well. So I think we should maybe, you know, get into that if people like. I was also, time permitting, wanting to just say a little bit about things like telekinesis, clairvoyance, and telepathy as well, and give some suggestions as regards developing those. But should we see how we do for time, and maybe just talk a little bit about astral projection, Chris?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Yes. Why not do astral projection? That would be interesting.
Okay. And I've got my eye on the not just the time, the charger here, because I'm not able to plug in from this.
Yeah.
I've got 36% left. All right, so keep fingers crossed. Yeah. So when most people talk about astral projection, obviously, I mean, astral projection is, where the phenomenon of projecting our spirits out of our physical bodies. Now, some people say that that's not actually what's happening. Some researchers say that what we're actually doing is projecting our thoughts out of our physical bodies, and we just think that we're actually out of our physical bodies. Myself, I don't believe that. I believe that thought projection and projecting our thoughts outside of our physical bodies is different to astral projection, and it's actually one of the ways of developing astral projection, which I'll come to. Now, pretty much everyone at one time or other has experienced dreaming, haven't they? Do you dream much, Chris?
Yes. It goes in waves. I have a couple of nights of dreaming and then nothing for weeks. But they reckon we dream every night, but we just don't remember it when we wake up.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm fast asleep, so I wouldn't know.
I mean, there is a school of thought which I tend to agree with. Some researchers believe that there's lots of different levels of what we can call the astral planes, a lot of different metaphysical levels, and there's a belief that you still there, Chris? Can you hear me, Chris? Your mic's gone.
That's it. Sorry, I forgot the. I'm moving the line. No, it's something from the astral plane that turns me bleeding light off every week.
Yeah.
So I'll just. Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm okay. Right.
Yeah. Where was I, Chris?
I forgot where he was. Sorry, because I was too busy looking at the bleeding light going on and off. I get easily.
Dreaming. Yeah.
Yes, dreaming. Yes, that was it. We were talking about dreaming.
There's a school of thought that when we dream, we are all actually astral traveling. Yes, there's certain impressions we're getting from the subconscious mind, but that's all. But there's a school of thought which says we're still outside of our bodies. But usually when we dream, we actually stay very close to our physical bodies, and occasionally we go further afield onto the different astral levels. But dreaming is mostly on a lower astral level, but quite close to our body. I mean, I tend to go with that. I think that most of the time, if not all of the time, we are actually out of our bodies when we are dreaming. And the other form of astral projection is actually possible to astral travel when we are awake. So basically just by sitting down or lying down, and relaxing and doing that, it's actually possible for people to actually leave their physical body actually when they're in a conscious state as well. So you've got this, you've got the astral travel, which comes naturally when you're asleep. And then you've got the astral travel when you're awake, where someone is actually consciously making that happen. Okay. Now, my first experience, Chris, was you remember in the previous show we did, I mentioned where I was in that bedroom, didn't I? And I had that horrific experience with the apparition, outside of the window. Well, in that same bedroom, when I was a child, one night I actually felt myself, it's the only way to describe it, as if I was bouncing off the furniture, bouncing off the ceiling, bouncing off the walls, bouncing off the furniture. That's how strong the sensation was. And it wasn't until I actually looked down at the bed and saw myself as a child lying in the bed that I actually realized that I was outside of my physical body. And then as soon as I realized that, I went, ah, and then I woke up suddenly with a start. And that's what tends to happen. When, I don't know if anyone's ever had the experience where when you're dreaming, you might recognize that you're actually dreaming and say, oh, I'm dreaming. And then when you recognize you're dreaming, you wake up, don't you? That very often happens.
I had an experience once where I realized I was dreaming and I was trying to wake up and I couldn't. And I started to get...
Yeah, that happens as well.
Yeah. And I was absolutely terrified. And eventually I pulled myself out and I woke up suddenly. And I only had it once. It terrified the living daylights out of me. But it's not you realise you're dreaming. But most people think I'm in a bleeding dream most of the time because I'm sort of... But no, really, I think that some people say you go into a different plane when you go to sleep, and you're on a different universe. You go into a parallel universe of some kind. Yeah, which is rather interesting.
Yeah, so, but that's what tends to happen. You reckon that you say, "Oh, I'm dreaming," and then you wake up. That's what often happens. Not always, but often happens. And I do believe that's connected with the phenomena of astral projection. So when people recognize that they're asleep or they think they're astral traveling, that tends to wake people up. Now, if people want to actually learn to develop their dream state, their dream astral traveling, the thing to do, Chris, and everyone at home, is to tell yourself that next time you dream, next time I dream, I'm going to recognize when I'm dreaming, and I'll recognize that it's a dream. And you tell yourself that before you go to sleep. And if you do that often enough, next time you dream, you'll actually remember that and you'll say, oh, I'm dreaming. And then the trick then is not to wake up. So with practice, once you program yourself to recognize that you're in a dream, with practice, when you know you're dreaming, say to yourself, oh, I want to go and check this out. I want to go here. I want to go there. I want to do this. I want to do that. So start to give yourself instructions when you recognize you're dreaming. And then by doing that, you can develop the astral traveling in the dream state. What were you going to say, Chris?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to chime in. It was rude of me. Terribly sorry. Salvador Dali used to paint his dreams. That was surrealism. Right. He painted surrealism, and Salvador Dali, he there was please correct me if I'm wrong, those of you out there, but I think there was a picture of he did, which was time, which was clocks dripping off of a shelf, and I think that came from a dream. I'm going back a long way now because I had to learn all about Salvador Dali when I was studying. So I think that, yes, he was very much into dreamland with his art and that, But we've just Robert's in. He's just coming to chat. Oh, where is he? No, Robert. Good evening. Oh, hello, Robert. He's working very hard. We don't see much of him these days, But Ancient Ruby has come in with one here. It says, The facts are most researchers have never experienced anything in their subjects. That's interesting. That's interesting, you know. And Dan MC has said he's going to have loads of cheese and do that. Yes, that is that cheese does make you. Oh, he's gone. Wonder where he's gone. Oh well, it just leaves me to say we're near the end of the show anyway. Now we've got where are we? What's this? My old drum teacher took over from the late Dave Early who passed away. Yes. Oh dear, that's a shame. Now, my word, poor sod, only just returned home from work. You certainly do work late hours, and you certainly work hard, Robert, you know, and we've missed you. Be nice to get you back soon. Here we go. What's it? Something that bugs the shit out of me, the people who are employed to debunk physics. Psychics, sorry, physics, I'm not talking about psychics. They're just as bad being paid for studying paranormal than claim it doesn't exist. Yes, you're right there. I'll tell you the bloke who gets on my nerves. That's who's that bloke who wrote The Selfish Gene? He's a famous atheist. I can't think of his name. Do you know who he is, Wayne? That atheist bloke who wrote The Selfish Gene.
I don't.
Yes. I'll have to look him up. Someone will come up with it. The Selfish Gene. And it was by Richard Dawkins. That's the bloke. Yes. Because, you know, everything is, yes, it's settled. It's a scientific fact. Nothing can be a scientific fact because the science can never be settled because it moves all the way along, you know.
Yeah.
And that's right, Robert. Yes, it is Richard Dawkins. You know, he comes out with some interesting things. But what annoys me is, you know, once upon a time they used to say rocks do not fall from the sky because they're not in the sky. Well, people are seeing meteorites. So they said, oh, people that see these rocks falling from the sky must be mental. Well, no, they're meteorites. So, you know, there we go. Anyway, you was going to say, Wayne, before you disappeared just then and you come back again.
Better crack on before I run out of charge here as well.
But oh, I think he's frozen again. Frozen in time. There we go. So there's, I'm afraid I've mentioned the words John Hamer, and his computer has caught it. Now, this is an interesting one from Robert. The very word science has a Latin root, yes, and is related to the word to know. Interesting. Thanks, Robert. Yes, very, very interesting. Right, I'm going to try and hang on. I'll twiddle around with the controls a bit, see if it makes any difference. Oh, he's gone again. Oh well, that's life, isn't it? You know, perhaps it's his computer sort of coughing it. So now we've got Ancient Ruby. Hello, Ancient Ruby. It's always about books and money. I feel this very much the same. Oh well. Yes, we all got our own points of view and that. Here we go. Right, here we go. And we go add in now. I think he's he's back again. Here we go.
Can I get on before it goes?
Certainly. Right, I think you're running out of charge, so there we go.
All right.
A meter.
Okay, yeah. So we've spoken about astral travel in the dream state and how to you know, I hope I got across there how we can develop that in a you know, whilst we're asleep. Just give a couple of quick suggestions for how to develop that when we're how to actually develop the ability whilst we're awake, Chris, if that's all right.
Okay. Coming up to time, so we better, you know, we've got a little bit of time left, but we're just coming up to it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one of the things to do is, if you imagine, if you just sit in a chair and relax, you know, and close your eyes, and imagine yourself actually standing up from your chair as if you're leaving your physical body, and just visualize this in your mind. And imagine that there's like a doppelganger of yourself, Chris, like a doppelganger Chris, in the next room, in the house, standing in the next room. And you visualize yourself getting up from your chair where you're sitting, and then walking or floating into the next room, and seeing your doppelganger in the next room, and then visualize yourself going into your doppelganger in the bedroom as you're sat in the living room, and then turn around in your doppelganger and just have a little look around your bedroom, and then imagine, and then take yourself in your doppelganger body and float back into the living room, and just imagine yourself sat in the chair, you know, where you were originally, and just look at your physical body as you are in the chair. So you're visualizing all this in your mind, and then just see yourself sink back into the Chris which is in the chair, and then open your eyes again. And another little trick, another visualization trick. So at the moment, obviously, this is just it's a visualization tool. You're projecting your mind out. Now, another little trick is you could put an object, get maybe 4 or 5 different objects and place them around your house, or maybe outside, and you know, maybe an object outside and a couple of objects outside in your garden, and then sit in your chair again and relax and visualize yourself standing up from your chair, and again turn around, and again in your mind's eye see yourself turning around, looking at your body as it's sitting in the chair, and then visualize yourself going through the house and looking at each of 4 or 5 objects that you've placed out in different places, and go into your garden if you've got a couple of objects there, and see yourself looking at the various objects as you go around the house and the garden. So you're doing all this in your visualization as you're sitting in the chair. So there's no, you know, so you haven't created a double this time. Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I mean, but Robert's comment said, "What purpose does the doppelganger serve?"
I'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, okay, and then visualize yourself turning around, and then going back through the house, again looking at your body in the chair, and then see yourself sinking back into the chair, and then again open your eyes. All right, so you've done all of this in your mind, projecting your mind out. Now the whole idea of this, and the same with the, what was it Robert said about the doppelganger?
He said here, where are we? I've lost it now.
Yeah, no, I heard what he said. You're okay. I heard what he said.
There is. What purpose does the doppelganger serve?
Yeah. Well, what I've just been describing are the visual. You're doing several things here. You're developing your visualization faculty, which can be used for many different things, and help to develop your mind, develop you spiritually. There's so much you can do with that visualization faculty. So you're developing and strengthening that faculty of yourself, but also by projecting your mind, these exercises where you're projecting your mind out in the way I've just described, if you do that often enough, you'll actually experience I can't say the word, dislocation. Say the word.
Dislocation, is it?
Yeah. You'll experience that from your body. So by starting off by doing this in your mind, that will actually lead, that projecting your mind out, apart from it being a very good tool to develop all different sorts of things, that projecting the mind out will actually lead to the phenomena of you actually leaving your body. So it will develop the astral travel out of the body experience. So you start off doing it with your mind, but that's a way of actually developing the astral travel. So that's the answer to that. That's the answer to that question.
Well,
so that's just
sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, but this is an incredible thing, to be able to do. I mean, I've done it myself many times, but I've gone through periods where I've not been able to do it for quite some time. There are other times when I've been able to do it, reasonably easily. But I actually had a couple of friends who, many years ago, who were actually able to do this to the extent that whether they were asleep or whether they were awake, sat in a chair, they could actually meet each other on the astral planes. And when they were asleep, these two friends actually met each other and did things whilst they were asleep, and then spoke about it the next day. And they have this whole life going on actually on the astral planes.
During the Cold War, I know the Americans and the Soviets, they invested heavily into distant viewing and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, according to Uri Geller, he was employed by the American Secret Service, but I think it was more the country we're not allowed to criticize Secret Service is probably involved in, but that's my own personal view anyway. Anyway, Wayne, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We've come up to our time, and we hope we've covered sort of. Luckily, the computer's held out; he hasn't gone, gone haywire. And so, please join me next Thursday, or this coming Thursday.
Can I?
Yeah, certainly.
Sorry, Chris. Sorry to interrupt you in mid-flow. Can I say something very quickly before you cut me off?
No problem. No, I'm not going to cut you off. No, I don't cut anybody off.
No, I'd just like to say, first of all, thanks for inviting me back, and next time, if anyone would like me to. Next time, if anyone would like to...
It's not an earthquake? Oh, no, ain't got an earthquake.
Can you hear me?
No, we've just had an earthquake at the moment. I don't know, what is it? It's about 0.5 on a Richter scale, I think, isn't it? Oh, no, you're back again. Right, where are we now? I don't know what's happening now. Well, we've only got to one part, Wayne. If anybody'd like to, and then I think we got a nice view under your table at the moment, or it could be, I don't know where it is really. Hello, are you with us? Well, I don't know what
Can you see? Can you see me at all?
I can't see.
Can you see me?
No, I can only hear you, and I think that your tablet that you're using is actually had a funny turn. Maybe it's going to the lane where.
Okay.
Yes,
you can hear me all right.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay. I think we got a lovely view of either your armpit or the inside of your shoe. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's rather. I'd say it's rather stunning. Could be the inside of your pocket. I just don't know. But there's a mystery. Answers, please, on a postcard.
Okay.
So, what would you like to say to everybody?
All right. Anyway, I'd just like to say, thanks for having me back. And on another show, if anyone's interested, I'd really like to talk about telekinesis, clairvoyance, and telepathy. And once again, I can give some suggestions as regards how people can actually develop those skills. Should they wish to. Can you hear me still? All right.
Yes. We're all
Yeah.
sitting around a circle holding hands, and we're just getting through to you. Don't you worry.
And in conclusion, I was just going to say, we started off, looking, didn't we, about how people don't always, see certain things, and we went into that, and we're talking about different frequencies, weren't we? The other thing, people, often ask is, why can't we all do certain things? But as we've gone through, I hope we've explained a little bit tonight that many people do have these experience and have experience of these abilities, and all of these abilities can be developed, should people wish to. I think all it takes is a little, perhaps is focus, clarity of thought, and practice. I mean, there's the old saying, isn't there? There's more in this world than we could ever dream imaginable. And I do think there's a power inside of us. This spirit inside of us is actually more powerful and has more abilities than we could ever dream was possible. So that's that's all I wanted to say. So thank you, Chris, and everyone at home.
Thank you very much for coming on tonight. And as I was saying, please join us. This coming Thursday. Not sure whether to do it Thursday or Monday. What is the closest to the Remembrance Sunday? It might be, I don't know. You have to tune in to find out which one I'm going to do. But I'm going to do an alternative remembrance, a very alternative and controversial one, I'd hasten to add. So it'll either be Thursday or it might be Monday. I don't know. Oh, hang on, we got the Bontempi organ playing now in the background, so that's interesting. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. And whatever happens, I've got to actually find the out thingy-bob on this. Right, where is it? Here it is. No, it isn't. It's here somewhere. There it is. Outro, that's what I was looking for. Anyway, whatever happens, thank you very much for joining us, and have a bloody good night. Laugh. I'll get it right, mate.
Bye, everyone.
I'll say good night and have a bloody good laugh. And good night.